Good morning and welcome to the special edition on Nile TV International, where we cover the latest updates in the world. Of course, we are going to start locally with President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi delivering a speech today on the occasion marking Egypt's celebration of Africa Day. In his speech via the video conference to the celebration hosted by Cairo University, President al-Sisi extended his congratulations on this historic event, which coincides with the anniversary of establishing the Organization of African Union, which reflected the people's will for freedom and fixed pillars of the African joint action. The Arab state said that Africa stands on the door of a new era of development and construction thanks to its huge capacities and rich resources. President al-Sisi also stressed the importance of strengthening solidarity and cooperation among the African countries in light of the international and regional developments and the continuous crisis and challenges. In this regard, we're going to be speaking to the Professor of International Relations, Dr. Yasser Tantawy. Good morning to you, Professor. Professor Yasser, can you hear me? Well, it seems that we are coming down with some technical issue. However, we're going to be continuing on the sidelines of the Africa Day event. Our correspondent, Ahmed Nader, conducted the following interview with the Ambassador Ali Al-Hifni, the former Deputy Foreign Minister for African Affairs. Let's watch.
With the presence of the Foreign Minister and the Minister of Higher Education, and of course the Minister of the President of the University is the main person that is receiving those dignitaries and receiving everybody that he has invited to attend that important event. In fact, we cherish very much our relations, especially since His Excellency President Fattah al-Sisi has taken over as a new president in 2014. The relations between Egypt and the African countries and the African Union has been at the forefront, at the top of our priorities as a foreign policy, and we are happy to see this type of deep interaction between Egypt and the other African countries. We are providing so many of our accumulated expertise that we have accumulated during those, especially during those last 10 years. But we have also to take into consideration that all this has a solid base that we have built since the 50s, when Egypt has given all sorts of support for the freedom fighters in Africa in such a way that they could liberate their countries and enjoy, as other nations, their independence.
Yes, Ambassador Hifni, as you mentioned, historically, the role of Egypt in terms of founding the African Union ever since 1963, as you mentioned, how do you see the historic role for Egypt in Africa and the future of building the bilateral relations between the country and the rest of the continent?
Things have changed completely since 1963. And in particular since the transformation to the African Union at the beginning of that century. And in fact, the continent is witnessing very important changes. It is not the same continent that we knew about 70 years ago or 50 years ago. It is gaining more momentum, strength. We are working very diligently on our cohesion within Africa. We give a priority to the integration, to the regional cooperation with the RECs, the regional economic communities. Egypt is a member of the COMESA, but we have to say that our focus now is mainly on the development agendas, the national development agendas, and we are learning from each other. We are trying to become more aware of the importance of governance within our countries and at continental level. And we are exchanging experiences and expertise all over the time. So we have a lot to share with the other African, and we make it a must, a duty for Egypt to share with the other African countries whatever we have succeeded in achieving during those last 10 to 15 years. So, and this is something which is very much appreciated by the other African countries. The trade is picking up among the African countries. The role of the Egyptian private businessmen is gaining more momentum in Africa. We are being engaged in huge type of projects like the Julius Nyerere Dam in Tanzania. So our giant companies like the Arab contractors and the Swedi are getting more reputation, more they are being solicited much more to do more of those projects which helps Africa. Now there is another thing which is important, that we are coordinating very well with our continent partners. Be it the United States, the European Union, Russia, China, Japan, India, and so on, such a way that we could make the best of it, gaining the expertise and the experience of other countries in such a way that it reflects upon our strive to make of our economies more vibrant economies.
Ambassador Ali Al-Hifni, the former Deputy Foreign Minister for African Affairs, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
This was our senior correspondent Ahmed Nader at the Africa Day today. We're going to be talking with our Dr. Yasser Tantawy, the Professor of International Relations. I hope the technical issue is now fixed. Dr. Yasser, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear. Hi.
Good morning to you, sir, and I'm
Good
sure
morning.
that you have been keeping up with the speech made by President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi today. And in this regard, the head of state said that Africa stands on the door of a new era of development and construction, and that is thanks to its rich resources and huge capacities. What's your comments on that, and what can we be anticipating for the Black Continent?
I think the perspective in Africa now is going to have real actions, not just like a political discussions or wording and so on. I believe the reason of Africa Day today was trending to having actions in place, focusing on food security, supply chain management, power and energy, natural resources, including water resources, and human development. All of that is all together is the anthem which is going on in the coming days. I think Africa now is a standstill for new development from real aspect, especially with the fluctuation that's happening politically in the worldwide now. So now I believe it's going to be very serious trend, especially the purpose of having it by Cairo University is to create a sort of inspiration by the place, not just having a political discussion in somewhere else. So there is a roadmap. I believe it's to a certain extent in place. There is an acceptance from all members joining to do that, and there is action steps taken promoted by Egypt, by the way. And I believe in the last few years, Egypt was pushing very hard in African region and supporting lots of things in a new trend to support continuous development, not just like political issues or diplomatic relations and so on. Now we are engaged indeed, and African countries now is having a belief that they should join together the effort, because the world is very, let's say, greedy now. So Africa should take care of herself by herself.
Right. Dr. Yasser, as a professor of international relations, how has the relationship between Egypt and the African countries evolved, especially with lots of disputes happening in the region?
Egypt is taking a stable direction and the balanced relations between all powers in Africa. So we are having a very balanced and tolerated relations with all countries, even the countries we don't have good relation with. So there is a very good tolerance in the relation. There is a very stable, and there is a very clear let's say, we cannot see sentence or messages communicated, but there is a very clear correspondence, there is very clear understanding of the African demands. We need to understand Egypt is already an African country. So, of course, we understand more how to get engaged, and we understand how to coordinate with them. So even we have some issues in the past, let's say, in the past, maybe before 20 years or something, have not stable relation with Africa, but I think Egypt now is promoting the African cooperation in a massive way and in a strategic pillar within the Egyptian soft powers and Egyptian diplomacy. It's
Right.
becoming now a cornerstone, not just like having Europe and so on. No, Africa is becoming a core in the development progress, actually.
Right, Dr. Yasser, our senior correspondent, Ahmed Nader, was actually a day on the Africa Day event, and he conducted the following interview with Ambassador Mohammed Al-Shazli, member of the Scientific Institute of Egypt. So let's watch that together.
Day and the bilateral relations between Egypt and the rest of Africa, more specifically in the attendance of Foreign Minister Dr. Badr Abdulati and the Minister of Higher Education as well at Cairo University. I'm honored to be having with me on Nile TV International for today Ambassador Mohammed Al-Shadhli, member of l'Institut de l'Egypte. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, for being with us today on Nile TV International on such a historic day celebrating Africa Day.
I am very happy to be part of this celebration. It is a great achievement and a great memory that happened in 1963 to establish the solidarity of Africa. In 1963, still much of Africa was still under colonial rule. There still was an apartheid regimes in South Africa and in Rhodesia. Today, Africa has achieved its independence. Africa has achieved its place that it deserves in the international arena and in the world. So I am happy to be celebrating with you this very great occasion.
Mr. Ambassador, today is not just about a celebration about diplomacy or celebrating the advancement of the diplomatic relations between Egypt and the rest of Africa, but the future as well in terms of higher education. How do you see the leap that we have had here in Egypt under the tenure of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi for the past decade or more, and today celebrating the future as well in terms of higher education and watching the prospects of prospering futures for the rest of Africa and for the Egyptian students as well in higher education and diplomacy?
The struggle is still on. Although we have achieved a lot in Africa and in Egypt, but there is still much more to be desired and much more to be achieved, especially in the sphere of education. I'm happy to be speaking under the dome of the Cairo University, from where I graduated very many years ago. And this dome and this university is a symbol of progress and struggle for independence of Egypt. The independence of Egypt has been achieved by the blood of martyrs of students of the Cairo University, engineers, doctors, teachers, lawyers who have graduated from under this dome have built modern Egypt. And I'm sure that the new generation will also continue to build more and more for a more prosperous Egypt and a more prosperous Africa.
And finally, Mr. Ambassador, the future of diplomacy, especially with the efforts of Foreign Minister Dr. Badr Abdulati, who is participating in Africa Day for today, as he mentioned, in Cairo University and the dome of Cairo University. How do you see the rapprochement between Egypt and the African countries under the tenure of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and Foreign Minister Dr. Badr Abdulati, more specifically that President al-Sisi was in Kenya, for example, participating in the Africa Forward Summit and then having held a visit or paid made a visit to Uganda in the same week.
I can't use the word rapprochement, because rapprochement means that the two parties who have been apart and they're coming together. Egypt has never been away from Africa. Egypt is in Africa. Egypt is one of the founders of the Organization of the African Unity, which has become the African Union today. Egypt has been always involved and spearheaded and was the vanguard of the decolonization process and the eradication of apartheid, and stood beside African nations after they had gained their independence, and they needed an economic and a political push to go forward. So Egypt is part of Africa. Egypt will always be a part of Africa, and holding hands with our African brethren is the true path for prosperity and power for all of us Africans.
Ambassador Mohammed Shadhili, member of l'Institut d'Egypte, thank you very much for being with us today on Nile TV International.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be part of this celebration.
Welcome back once more. We are still talking to the Professor of International Relations, Dr. Yasser Tantawy. Are you still with me, Dr. Yasser?
Hello, yes, I'm here.
Well, sir, President El-Sisi highlighted that hosting the events in Cairo University reflects academic institutional long-standing role in spreading knowledge among Arab and African generations. What is the significance today of holding this event in Cairo University as a professor, as from the perspective of a professor of international relations?
As we know, Cairo University is known to be as the Egyptian university. It is an institutional, educational, high-level and high-niche university that has, we cannot say international rank, but it has history of its own. It has a civilization by its own. So having the meeting there, it represents civilization, it presents anthem, it presents lots of pillars that inspire people. So that the speech, the talks, the discussion is not directed only to the African presidents and so on. No, it is directed to African people, because people are getting more oriented to university, more oriented to education, and that means Egypt is focusing in the coming days on institutional business through institutional organizations like universities, like education, like health, like infrastructure, and so on. So it reflects the trend. So it is not only for discussion, no, it is to put things in place to reflect institutional business, to reflect institutional behavior, let's say, which is a new trend that Egypt is taking for Africa. Especially Egypt trend in African development is like a counterpart, based on partnership, not based on abusing of resources, not used of colonization, not used to, let's say, abuse of their powers and so on. It's
Right.
full collaboration aspects we are taking, which is unique. As we understand, no other country did actually. Even there is presence of other nations back in Africa from different places in the world, but Egypt is the only country have this trend. So we have equal powers, we have equal opportunities between parties. We present that and we deal with that. And presented by Cairo University means it is institutional, it is inspirational, and it is going to public. So it's a public, it is an hidden message to the public. It's public in Africa, where everybody understands the value of Cairo University, the value of the dome, our famous dome. So this is what we are presenting. It's lots of meanings inherently, and it presents a continuous, sustainable approach towards stable politics with African countries based on win-to-win situation, which is already happening through lots of projects which is going now, and lots of promoting steps that we are taking toward African countries and nations, of course.
Professor, what was the most significant thing throughout the years that has strengthened the relations between Egypt and Africa?
Actually, Egypt is putting the pillars of very important aspect, which is respect of national and domestic security of each country, respecting the relationship interacross the African continent, and of course acknowledging the power of the African as unity. So this is a very high power. Africa is having the largest continent in the world with number of countries embedded inside, but the value economically is not there. The value politically is not there, and this is what Egypt is doing, like a locomotive to that. Maybe our key issue could be the supply chain management, food security, water resources, human resources development, infrastructure development. That could be the key pillars that we are dealing with. But all of that will be based on promoting education by or from Egypt, which we used to do it in the 60s, if you remember from historical aspect that. But now we are doing it in a better way. Now we are doing based on mutual benefit. Now we are doing based on real cooperation, not just to be there to from political point of view only. Now we are doing it from a beneficial point of view for all parties, with a very equated power of balance with all nations, with respect of the entire domestic and regional politics needed to be there, which is unique actually. And as we said, no other nation did that, especially if we compare it to other nations which exist already there, like Turkey, China, US, France, and so on. Everybody is having his own personal interest without taking care of the local interest. But we are highlighting the value of the domestic interest, the local interest versus what we like to have. So both of us are winning in this case, and everybody will be happy by the end of the day, as we hope.
Right. Dr. Yasser Tantawy, the Professor of International Relations, thank you very much for your insights on the Africa Day, and thank you for being with us on Nile TV International.